The Great Hall of the Galactic Council stretched out like a metal ocean. Thousands of alien beings filled the floating seats that hung in perfect circles around the central platform. Elena Vasquez stood alone in the middle, her human form small, against the massive chamber walls that reached up into darkness. She had been Earth's voice for 5 years now. 5 years of trying to make the other species understand that humans were not the monsters they thought. But today, she could see in their many eyes that her time was over. The speaker was a Zephyrian, one of the oldest races in the galaxy. Its crystal body caught the lights from above and threw rainbow patterns across the floor. When it spoke, the words came from devices that turned its thoughts into sounds all species could understand. "We gather today to decide the fate of the human species within our council," the speaker announced. Its voice echoed through the hall like breaking glass. "For 50 years we have watched, we have learned, and we have seen enough." Elena felt, her heart beating fast, but she kept her face calm. Around her she could see the Vorticons with their rock-like skin and glowing orange eyes. The Nexari moved as one group, their shared mind making them turn their heads at exactly the same time. There were dozens of other species. Some she knew and others she had never seen before. "The humans," continued the speaker, "have shown us their true nature. They are violent. They expand too fast. They take risks that put all of us in danger. They do not follow the rules that have kept peace in our galaxy for thousands of years." Vortac delegate stood up. Its voice was deep like thunder from underground. "In their short time here, the humans have started 3 wars with asteroid miners. They have built weapons that even they do not fully understand. They refuse to limit their population growth or their expansion into new systems." Elena wanted to speak, to explain that humans were just different, not evil. But the rules said she had to wait until they called on her. A Nexari spoke next, but it was really hundreds of them speaking with one voice. "The human mind is chaos. We have tried to touch their thoughts to understand them, but they think in ways that hurt to follow. They make choices that have no pattern. They are dangerous to the order of things." More voices joined in. The Crystalline Collective said, "Humans moved too fast and broke too many things." The Wise Ones claimed humans asked too many questions about things that should not be questioned. The Tree Shepherds said humans cut down forests on worlds where the trees had been growing for millions of years. Elena had heard all of these complaints before. She had spent years trying to answer them, to show that human differences were strengths, not weaknesses. But she could see now that fear was stronger than reason in this place. The speaker raised one crystal arm for silence. "We call upon Elena Vasquez, voice of Earth, to speak for her species before we vote." Elena walked to the speaking circle in the center of the platform. She looked up at the thousands of beings watching her. Some had eyes like hers. Others saw, with heat or sound or way she could not imagine. But she could feel their fear of her kind in the air like electricity before a storm. "Leaders of the Galactic Council," she began, her voice steady and clear. "You speak of human danger, but you do not speak of human gifts. Yes, we expand quickly, but we also adapt quickly. We help worlds that others have given up on. We find solutions to problems that have existed for centuries." She paused, seeing some of the alien faces change. A few seemed to be listening. "You say we are violent, but we are also the ones who stopped the Void Pirates when your fleets could not. We are the ones who saved the Kepler colonies when the star began to die. We fight, yes, but we also protect." A Zephyrian in the front row made a sound like wind through broken crystal. "And that is exactly the problem, human. You act without permission. You decide what is right without asking the council. You are like children playing with fire." Elena felt anger rising in her chest, but she pushed it down. Getting angry now would only prove their point. "We are not children," she said firmly. "We are a young species learning to live among older ones. Give us time. Give us guidance. Do not throw us away because we are different." The speaker's crystal body flickered with inner light. "The time for guidance has passed. The vote will now begin." Elena watched as the lights appeared above each delegation. Red meant exile. Blue meant humanity could stay. The first lights were red, then more red. A few blue lights appeared, but they were quickly drowned in a sea of red. The counting took only minutes. When it was done, the speaker announced the result in a voice that rang through the silent hall. The vote is 847 for exile, 12 against. The human species is hereby removed from the Galactic Council. All trade agreements are ended. All technology sharing is stopped. All territorial rights beyond the Sol system are taken away. You have 30 days to remove all human presence from Council space. Elena stood in the speaking circle as the alien beings began to file out. She had known this was coming, but hearing it made real still hit her like a physical blow. She walked back to the human section where her small team waited. Their faces were pale and shocked. These were good people who had worked hard to build bridges between humanity and the galaxy. Now those bridges were burning. "What do we do now?" asked David. Park, her deputy. He was young and had believed that logic and good intentions could solve anything. Elena looked around the emptying hall one last time. "Now we go home, and we remember this day." As they walked toward the exit, Elena made a choice that would change everything. She stopped and turned back to the speaker who was still on the central platform. "You think you are protecting the galaxy from us?" she called out, her voice carrying in the nearly empty space. "But you are making a mistake. Humanity does not break when it is pushed. It becomes stronger. You are not getting rid of a problem today. You are creating your future rulers." The speaker's crystal body pulsed with cold light. "Empty threats from a failed species." Elena smiled, and there was something in that smile that made the ancient being take a step back. "Not a threat," she said. "A promise." Then she turned and walked away, leading her people out of the hall and into an uncertain future. Behind them, the great chamber fell silent, but the echoes of her words seemed to hang in the air long after she was gone. The exile had begun. 10 years had passed since the exile. The Sol system looked very different now. Dr. James Chen stood in his laboratory on Luna Station, looking at pieces of alien technology spread across metal tables. The devices came from the early days when humans were still part of the Galactic Council. Now they were the keys to humanity's survival. "Show me the power readings again," James said to his assistant, Maria Santos. Maria pointed to the screen showing numbers and graphs. "The Zephyrian energy cells are still working, but we cannot make new ones. The Vortak mining tools stopped working last month, and the Nexari communication devices died 3 years ago." James nodded. He had expected this. The aliens had built their technology to stop working if it was cut off from their networks. They wanted to make sure exiled species could not use their gifts against them. "But we learned from them," James said, picking up a device that looked like a crystal wrapped in metal wires. "Every scan we took, every measurement we made, it is all here in our computers." He walked to another table where human-built devices sat next to the alien ones. They looked rougher, made from earth metals and parts, but they worked. Some worked better than the originals. "Dr. Chen," called a voice from across the lab. It was Tom Wright, one of the young engineers. "The new fusion drive is ready for testing." James followed Tom to a sealed chamber where a small engine sat on a test platform. This engine was built using ideas learned from Zephyrian technology, but made with human materials and human methods. "Start the test," James said. The engine came to life with a soft blue glow. Numbers appeared on screens around the chamber. James watched them climb higher and higher. "Power output is 340% of the original Zephyrian design," Tom said, his voice full of excitement. "And it uses materials we can make here in the Sol system." James smiled. It was the first time he had smiled in months. "Good. How many can we build?" "With the new factories on Mars? Maybe 100 per month." "Make it 200, James said, "and start work on the next version." Across the solar system, other humans were working just as hard. On Mars, General Sarah Okafor stood in a training facility watching her soldiers learn new ways to fight. The aliens had laughed at human military tactics, calling them messy and unpredictable. Now Sarah was making those traits into weapons. "Remember," she told the squad of Marines, "aliens think in patterns. They plan for what they expect. But humans can change plans in the middle of a fight. Use that. The Marines were practicing with new weapons that combined human engineering with stolen alien concepts. The guns could fire different types of energy, depending on what they were shooting at. The armor could change its shape to fit different situations. Captain Lisa Torres raised her hand. General, what about their shield technology? Our tests show it stops almost everything. Sarah smiled the same way a wolf smiles before hunting. Almost everything, Captain. But we found something interesting. Watch. She picked up a strange weapon that looked like it was made from spare parts. When she fired it at a piece of alien shield technology, the shield flickered and died. Chaos rounds, Sarah explained. They fire energy that has no pattern. The alien shields cannot figure out how to stop them because there is nothing consistent to stop. The Marines looked at each other with growing understanding. They had been taught that human unpredictability was a weakness. Now they were learning it was their greatest strength. On the asteroid belt, Marcus Webb was building something the galaxy had never seen. He stood on the observation deck of Forge Station, watching robot ships tear apart asteroids and turn them into raw materials. How many shipyards are operational now? He asked his assistant, Anna Kim. 17 major ones, sir, plus 43 smaller facilities. We are producing 6 new ships every day. Marcus watched as a new ship took shape in the construction bay below. It was sleek and powerful, built with lessons learned from every alien design humans had ever studied. But it was also something new, something that could only come from human minds. What about the self-repair systems? Marcus asked. Working perfectly. The ships can fix themselves using materials they find in space. They can also upgrade themselves if they discover new technology. Marcus nodded. The aliens built their ships to last forever without changing. Humans built ships that could evolve. On Europa, Dr. Rachel Kim was solving a different problem. Her research station floated under the ice of Jupiter's moon, where she was creating closed-loop life support systems that could keep humans alive anywhere. The plants are growing 400% faster than on Earth, she told her team, and they produce more oxygen while using less water. Her assistant, David Park, looked at the growing chambers filled with green plants that glowed softly in the artificial light. How is that possible? We took genes from Earth plants and mixed them with concepts from alien biotechnology. The plants can eat different types of radiation and turn it into energy. Rachel walked to a window that looked out into the dark ocean under Europa's ice. Strange shapes moved in the water, but they were not aliens. They were Earth creatures that had been changed to live in this cold, dark place. Humans adapt, she said quietly. Not just our technology, but ourselves. We become what we need to become. Back on Earth, President Maria Santos stood in the war room deep under the North American Federation Capitol. She was Elena Vasquez's daughter, and she had been elected on a promise to make humanity strong enough that no one would ever exile them again. Report, she said to the people around the table. General Okafor spoke first. Military strength is up 600% since the exile. We have new weapons, new ships, and soldiers trained in ways the aliens cannot predict. Dr. Chen reported next. Technology. Development is ahead of schedule. We will have capabilities beyond anything the Galactic Council has seen within 5 years. Marcus Webb's voice came through the communication system from the asteroid belt. Industrial capacity is growing every month. We can build fleets faster than any alien species. President Santos looked at the star map on the wall. It showed the Sol system surrounded by the empty space that marked humanity's prison. But she did not see a prison anymore. She saw a fortress where humanity had grown strong. How long before? We are ready, she asked. The room was quiet for a moment. Then General Okafor spoke. We are ready now, Madam President. The question is, ready for what? President Santos smiled, and it was the same smile her mother had given the Galactic Council 10 years ago. Ready to show the galaxy what they created when they tried to destroy us. Outside the underground room, Earth's sky was filled with ships heading to the stars. The exile was ending, but not the way the aliens had planned. Humanity was coming back. Captain Lisa Torres stood on the bridge of the UES Defiance. watching the stars through the main viewing screen. This was the first human ship to leave the Sol system since the exile 30 years ago. Behind her, 5 more ships waited for her. Orders. Long-range sensors are picking up movement, reported Lieutenant Commander Sarah Kim from her station. 3 ships Zephyrian design heading our way. Lisa felt her heart beat faster. This was the moment they had all been preparing for. The moment when humanity would face their former captors again. All ships, maintain formation, Lisa said into her communication device. Remember, we are not here to start a fight, but we will finish one if they force us to. The alien ships grew larger on the screen. They were beautiful in their own way, made of crystal and metal that caught the light from nearby stars. Lisa remembered seeing ships like these when she was a child, back when humans were still part of the Galactic Council. Incoming transmission, said Communications Officer David Park. Put it on screen. The face that appeared was familiar to anyone who had studied Galactic Council history. Commander Zefka had been one of the voices calling for human exile all those years ago. His crystal features showed no emotion, but Lisa could see surprise in his glowing eyes. Unknown vessels, Zefka said, his words translated by the ship's computer. You are in violation of the quarantine zone. Identify yourselves immediately. Lisa stood up from her captain's chair. She wore the new uniform of the Human Space Navy, dark blue with silver trim that caught the bridge lights. This is Captain Lisa Torres of the United Earth ship Defiance. We are conducting peaceful exploration beyond our former borders. Zeph Ka's crystal body flickered with inner light, a sign of anger among his people. Impossible. Humans were exiled. You have no right to be here. Turn back now or face the consequences. Lisa smiled, but it was not a friendly smile. Commander, I think you misunderstand the situation. We were exiled from your council, not from the galaxy. These stars belong to no one. You will submit to inspection, Zefka demanded. Your ships will be scanned and searched. Any alien technology will be confiscated. The bridge fell silent. Lisa looked around at her crew. These were people who had been born after the exile, who had grown up hearing stories of how the aliens had thrown humanity away like garbage. They were ready for this moment. I'm afraid I cannot allow that, Commander, Lisa said calmly. We are not part of your council. We do not follow your laws. Zefka's image flickered with rage. You dare refuse? You are still the same arrogant humans who caused so much trouble before. Nothing has changed. Lisa's smile grew wider. Oh, Commander, everything has changed. The first shot came from the Zephyrian ships, bright energy beams that would have destroyed any ship from 30 years ago. But the Defiance was not a ship from 30 years ago. The beams hit the human ship and scattered like light hitting a mirror. The Defiance's adaptive armor analyzed the energy patterns and created a perfect defense in milliseconds. Return fire, Lisa ordered. Chaos rounds only. Let them see what we learned. The human ships fired weapons that seemed to bend space itself. The energy had no pattern, no rhythm that the alien computers could understand. The Zephyrian shields, designed to stop organized attacks, failed completely. The first alien ship lost power and began to drift. The second tried to run, but human engines were faster now. The third ship fired everything it had, but the chaotic human weapons cut through its defenses like they were made of paper. This is impossible, Zefka said, his voice full of fear, for the first time. Your technology was inferior, we made sure of that. Lisa walked closer to the screen, her eyes hard. You made sure we could not use your technology, but you never thought about what we might build instead. The alien commander's crystal face showed confusion. How? In 30 years, how did you advance so far? You want to know the secret? Lisa asked. You gave us the greatest gift any species could receive. You gave us a reason to become better than you. Before Zefka could respond, more ships appeared on the sensors. Human ships coming from deep space. They moved in patterns that made no sense to alien minds, but worked perfectly for the chaotic human way of thinking. Admiral Chen Wei to Captain Torres, came a voice over the communication system. I see you found our old friends. Lisa smiled as her former teacher's face appeared on a smaller screen. Admiral Chen was the daughter of the scientist who had started humanity's technological revolution. She commanded the largest human fleet ever assembled. Admiral Commander Zefka was just asking how we managed to advance so quickly. Admiral Chen looked at the alien commander with eyes that held 30 years of anger. Commander, your people made a mistake when you exiled us. You thought isolation would make us weak. Instead, it made us hungry. More human ships continued to arrive. They came from directions the aliens had not been watching, using routes through asteroid fields and dead space that no council species would dare to travel. Impossible, Zefka whispered. The quarantine zone was perfect. We monitored every way out of your system. You monitored the ways you would use, Admiral Chen said. You never understood that humans do not think like you do. We find paths where others see walls. The alien ships were now surrounded by a fleet of human vessels that seemed to have appeared from nowhere. Each ship was different, built for different purposes, but all of them carried the same message. Humanity was back. What do you want? Zefka asked, his proud voice now small and frightened. Lisa looked at Admiral Chen, who nodded back to her. We want you to take a message to the Galactic Council, Lisa said. Tell them that the exile is over. Tell them that humanity is coming back to the galaxy, and this time we are coming as equals, not as beggars. And if the council refuses? Zefka asked. Admiral Chen's smile was cold as space itself. Then tell them they will discover what happens when you try to cage a species that was born to be free. The human fleet began to move, leaving the damaged Zephyrian ships behind. As they headed deeper into what had once been forbidden space, Lisa felt a sense of completion. The exile had ended not with humanity crawling back to beg for acceptance, but with them returning as conquerors. Behind them, Zefka watched the human ships disappear into the darkness. He began composing a message to the Galactic Council, but he struggled to find words for what he had seen. How do you tell an ancient civilization that the children they threw away had grown up to become giants? The age of human exile was over. The age of human expansion had begun. Admiral Chen Wei stood in the command center of her flagship, watching star maps that showed human expansion across 17 different systems. What had started as small exploration missions had become something the galaxy had never seen before. A coordinated wave of human settlement that moved faster than any government could respond to. Report from the Kepler 442 system, said her aide, Commander Park. Colony ship Phoenix has successfully established a base on the 4th planet. The planet was listed as uninhabitable by Council standards. Chen Wei smiled. Council standards meant safe temperatures, breathable atmosphere, and stable gravity. Human standards meant anywhere they could build a dome and dig a hole. What about the native conditions? She asked. Surface temperature of -60 degrees, atmosphere is mostly methane, and gravity is twice Earth normal. The colonists say it reminds them of home. Chen Wei laughed. Humans had learned to call any harsh place home if it meant they could be free. The exiles had taught them that comfort was less important than independence. Her communication device buzzed with an urgent message. Admiral, this is General Okafor. We have a situation in the Ross 128 system. The screen showed General Okafor standing in what looked like a military command post. Behind her, Chen Wei could see maps and tactical displays showing ship movements. What's the problem, General? The Vortakans have sent a fleet to remove our settlements from 3 systems they claim we're occupying illegally. 47 ships, including their new crystal destroyers. Chen Wei studied the tactical display. The Vortak Empire had always been one of the most powerful members of the Galactic Council. Their ships were built from living crystal that could repair itself, and their weapons could crack planets. How many ships do we have in the area? 12, General Okafor replied. But Admiral, these aren't the same ships we had 5 years ago. Chen Wei nodded. Human shipbuilding had changed everything about space warfare. Instead of building a few large ships that took years to replace, humans built many smaller ships that could work together like a school of fish. Show me the enemy formation. The display changed to show the Vortak fleet moving in a perfect geometric pattern toward the human settlements. They moved like a single massive creature, each ship in exactly the right place. Classic Vortax strategy, Chen Wei said. They rely on overwhelming firepower and superior defenses. They expect us to run or surrender. Admiral, called out Lieutenant Torres from the sensor station. I'm picking up transmissions from the Vortac fleet. They're demanding that all human settlements surrender immediately. Put me through to the Vortac commander. The screen filled, with the image of a being that looked like it was carved from orange rock. Warmaster Kethfor was known throughout the galaxy as one of the finest military minds in the Vortac Empire. Human Admiral, Kethfor said, his voice like grinding stone. You will order your people to leave these systems immediately. They belong to the Galactic Council by ancient right. Chen Wei stood straighter. Warmaster, these systems were marked as uninhabitable in all council records. We found them empty and made them into homes. Uninhabitable by civilized standards? Kethfor replied. That does not give primitives the right to claim them. The word primitives hit Chen Wei like a slap. It was the same word the council had used 30 years ago when they threw humanity out. Warmaster, I think you have not been paying attention to galactic events. We are no longer the primitives you remember. Kethfor's rocky features showed something that might have been amusement. Impossible. Your crude ships may have surprised a single Zephyrian patrol, but this is the Vortac Empire's finest fleet. You have minutes to begin evacuation, or we will remove you by force. Chen Wei looked around her bridge at officers who had grown up in the shadow of exile. Their parents had been thrown out of the galaxy like unwanted garbage. Now they commanded ships that could rewrite the rules of space. Warfare. General Okafor, begin Operation Swarm. The tactical display exploded with activity. Human ships that had been hiding in asteroid fields and behind dead moons suddenly appeared on sensors. They came from directions the Vortakans had not been watching, moving in patterns that seemed random but worked together perfectly. What is this? Kethfor demanded as his sensors showed dozens of human ships appearing around his fleet. This is what happens when you underestimate humans twice, Chen Wei said. The battle began with the Vortakans firing their massive crystal weapons at targets that were no longer there. Human ships moved like insects, never staying in one place, long enough to be hit. Their weapons fired chaos rounds that the Vortac shields could not understand or stop. Impossible, Kethfor said as his first ship lost power. Your weapons should not be able to penetrate crystal armor. Your armor is designed to stop organized attacks, Chen Wei explained as more Vortac ships began to drift powerless through space. But human weapons don't attack in organized patterns. We attack like a storm. The Vortac fleet tried to change formation, but human ships were already inside their defenses. Small human fighters attached themselves to the crystal destroyers, like parasites drilling through armor with mining tools that had been turned into weapons. This is not warfare, Kethfor said, his voice full of outrage. This is chaos. Yes, Chen Wei agreed, and chaos is something we humans understand very well. Within an hour, the great Vortac fleet was defeated. Some ships were captured, others were disabled, and the rest were running back toward Council. Space as fast as their crystal engines could carry them. As the human ships regrouped, Chen Wei opened a channel to all the colonies in the system. This is Admiral Chen Wei to all human settlements. The Vortac Empire has learned the same lesson the Zephyrians learned. We are not the weak species they exiled. We are not begging for permission to exist. We are here, and we are staying. Cheers came back from every colony ship and orbital station. People who had been born in exile were now claiming their place among the stars. Admiral, said Commander Park, we're receiving messages from other systems. More council fleets are moving to challenge our settlements. Chen Wei looked at the star map showing human colonies spreading across the galaxy like seeds on the wind. Each settlement was small and vulnerable by itself, but together they formed something the galaxy had never seen, a network of human communities that could support each other across vast distances. Let them come, she said. Every time they try to stop us, we learn more about how to defeat them. Every attack makes us stronger. On the screens around her, She could see human ships heading to new systems, carrying colonists who would turn dead worlds into gardens and empty space into highways. The galaxy was vast, but humans had something their enemies did not: the ability to make homes anywhere, and the will to defend those homes no matter what the cost. The Galactic Council had exiled humanity to protect their ordered civilization. Now they were discovering that they had created something far more dangerous than anything they had tried to prevent. They had created a species with nothing left to lose and everything to gain. The human tide was rising, and nothing in the galaxy could stop it. Admiral Elena Vasquez walked through the rebuilt Galactic Council chambers, her boots clicking on the polished metal floor. 50 years had passed since her grandmother had stood in this same hall as humanity was exiled from the galaxy. Now Elena wore the gold insignia of the Supreme Commander of the Galactic Defense Alliance, and the beings who had once cast out her people waited nervously for her words. The great chamber had been rebuilt after the war. The old floating seats had been replaced with a more practical design that put all species on the same level. The crystal dome that had once shown the majesty of space now displayed real-time maps of human-controlled systems across 3 spiral arms of the galaxy. Elena took her place at the central podium where her grandmother had once begged for understanding. Around her sat representatives from dozens of species, but the arrangement was very different now. The Zephyrians sat in a small section to her left, their crystal bodies dim with defeat. The Vortakans occupied an even smaller area, their rock-like faces showing the weariness of a once proud empire now reduced to begging for protection. "The council will come to order," Elena announced, her voice carrying easily through the chamber, without need for translation devices. Most species had learned human languages by now. Speaker Zeph Ka, the same being who had overseen humanity's exile 5 decades ago, rose from his seat. His crystal body was cracked with age and stress, and his voice trembled when he spoke. "Supreme Commander, the Nexari Collective has sent another message. Their exploratory fleets have encountered something beyond the galactic rim, something that consumes entire systems." Elena nodded. The Devourers, as humans had named them, were why the old Galactic Council had finally admitted they needed humanity's help. These entities from dark space ate stars and planets, leaving nothing but empty void behind them. "What does the Collective want?" Elena asked, though she already knew the answer. "Protection," Zefka said, the word seeming to hurt him. "They offer to place their remaining systems under human authority in exchange for defense against the Devourers." Elena looked around the chamber at faces that represented species who had once called humans primitive and dangerous. The Crystalline Collective had joined the Human Alliance 3 years ago, after their homeworld was destroyed. The Tree Shepherds had surrendered their independence in exchange for human terraforming technology that could restore their dying forests. One by one, the proud members of the old council had come to humanity asking for help. "Commander Park, what is the current status of our defense preparations?" Elena asked. Commander David Park, now an old man with gray hair, stood from his seat in the human section. He had been with Elena's grandmother during the exile and had lived to see humanity rise to rule the galaxy. "The new fortress systems are operational in 47 strategic locations," he reported. "Our deep space monitoring network extends beyond the galactic rim in all directions. If the Devourers approach Council space, we will have weeks to prepare." A delegate from the Wise Ones, their pale blue skin showing signs of stress, raised a tentacled arm. "Supreme Commander, our species has studied the Devourer technology. It is beyond our understanding. How can even human ingenuity defeat beings that can consume stars?" Elena smiled, and it was the same confident smile her grandmother had worn when making her final promise to the Council 50 years ago. "Delegate Mirthi, your people spent thousands of years trying to understand the universe by following rules and patterns. You believed that everything could be predicted and controlled. But the Devourers do not follow your rules." She walked to the great display that showed the galaxy. Red dots marked systems that had been consumed by the Devourers. Yellow dots showed human defensive positions, and green dots showed the new worlds that humans had created from dead space and failed planets. "The Devourers are chaos," Elena continued. They are destruction without purpose or pattern, and that is exactly why humans can defeat them. War Master Kethvor, the once mighty Vortak commander who now served as Elena's military advisor, spoke from his place of honor near the human section. The Supreme Commander speaks truth. I have seen human battle tactics evolve over 30 years. They do not fight chaos with order. They fight chaos with better chaos. Elena nodded to the old warrior. Kethvor had been her enemy once, but he had learned to respect human ways of war. Now, he was one of humanity's most trusted allies. The Nexari Collective will be granted full protection, Elena announced. Their systems will be integrated into our defensive network. In return, they will provide their computational abilities to help coordinate our response to the Devourer threat. She looked around the chamber at beings who had once thought themselves the masters of the galaxy. Now they waited for human permission to live or die. I want to remind everyone here of something, Elena said, her voice growing softer but somehow more powerful. 50 years ago, you exiled humanity because you thought we were too dangerous, too unpredictable, too willing to break your ancient rules. The chamber fell completely silent. Even the air circulation system seemed to stop. You were right, Elena continued. We are dangerous. We are unpredictable. We do break rules. But those are not weaknesses. They are exactly what the galaxy needs now. She walked closer to the Zephyrian section where Speaker Zefka sat like a broken statue. You tried to protect your ordered civilization by throwing us away. Instead, you created the only force in the galaxy capable of protecting you from true chaos. A young Zephyrian delegate, one who had been born after the exile, raised her crystal hand. Supreme Commander, what assurance do we have that humanity will not become the very threat you protect us from? Elena stopped walking and looked directly at the young being. It was a fair question, and one that deserved an honest answer. None, Elena said simply. You have no assurance except this. Humans do not destroy for the sake of destruction. We build things. We make dead worlds into gardens. We turn empty space into highways between the stars. Yes, we can be dangerous. But we are dangerous to those who threaten what we have built. She returned to the central podium and looked up at the dome showing the galaxy they now protected. My grandmother stood in this chamber 50 years ago and made you a promise. She told you that humanity would become your rulers. Today I make you a different promise. The chamber held its breath. We will protect this galaxy and everyone in it, not because we conquered you, but because that is what humans do. We do not abandon those who need help, even if they once abandoned us. Elena raised her hand, and the great seal of the Galactic Defense Alliance appeared on every screen in the chamber. It showed a human hand reaching out to grasp the hands of a dozen other species, all standing together against the darkness beyond the stars. The age of exile is over, she declared. The age of unity begins now. As the representatives filed out of the chamber, Speaker Zefka approached Elena. His ancient crystal face showed something that might have been regret. Your grandmother was right, he said quietly. You did become our rulers. But I do not think even she imagined you would also become our saviors. Elena looked at the old being who had cast out her people so long ago. Zefka, do you know what? The greatest gift is that your people gave humanity? The ancient Zephyrian shook his crystal head. Elena smiled one last time. You taught us that we could survive anything, and once a species learns that lesson, there is nothing in the universe they cannot accomplish. Outside the chamber, human ships moved through space carrying supplies to alien worlds. Human scientists worked alongside former enemies to solve impossible problems, and human children played with the children of species that had once called them monsters. The galaxy was vast and full of dangers, but for the first time in its history, it was truly united. And at the center of that unity stood the species that had been thrown away like garbage, now holding the stars themselves in their protective hands. The exile had ended not with revenge, but with something far more powerful, the simple human refusal to let others suffer alone.